today about rules. Yay, so just wanted to put out a reminder of the rules that go over the QARN. So as we make our attempt to get back to business as usual, whatever that is going to look like going forward. Just a reminder, this has always been the rules in terms of responding to the QARN process. So once we complete a review at one of your locations, you have 30 calendar days to send a response back to us. And then after that, you have 30 additional days, so 60 days total to put that plan into place. In some instances, we've seen where people send the POI in and everything's been implemented. And then in some instances, it's okay, so, by this date, we're gonna have this stuff done. So that can't take any longer than 60 days total, calendar days. If that doesn't happen, then we are required by rule to notify our provider relations department, and by virtue of that, then the department that a response to a QARN has
All right. Well, I don't understand.
I don't know if you guys can hear, but there is no sound and we can't hear anything.
Can you hear us now?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
How far back?
How far back has it been? Anything?
Since you started the recording.
All right, so I can just do a crib of my presentation, which is basically, so we're talking about the QARN process, and that there is a requirement participate in the process that DODD, again, we're kind of looking at going back to business as pre-pandemic level. So one of the things that DODD put out Memo Monday was from October 3rd of last year, was that they have an expectation that for the QARN process, that providers will participate throughout the whole process, including scheduling, requested documentation, submitting a POI, and then implementing that POI. And that failure to do so could lead to potential citations and sanctions from DODD. And as I said, we don't want that to happen to anybody. That's never the point of the QARN process. The point of the process is, again, for it to be meaningful for everybody so that you get better procedures in place that hopefully then leads to, again, the best health and safety outcomes that we can have for our So I think, Angie and I definitely want to work with you guys. I mean, if we schedule something and it's not a week that works for you, because maybe somebody who is responsible for oversight is going to be on vacation that week, obviously we'll pick a different one. And if the oversight person is on vacation for like a year, we might have to figure something out at that point. But we'll pick what dates work with you, what MedPass times work with you. And for the POIs, if you don't know what to send to us, please reach out and ask, right? We're more than happy to set up a meeting, to come back out if we need to kind of go through with you again. The whole point of this is not to turn in something so that Angie and I will just go away, right? It's so that, again, you have the best processes and procedures in place as possible. So please reach out if you have questions about anything. Don't just turn in nothing. Because then we are required, as we looked at by rule, to kind of take that to DOD. We don't want that. So as we look at QA earnings for 2023. So by rule, reviews are required to be completed every 3 years, right, at your locations. Well, 3 years ago was 2020. And it feels like 20 minutes and 20 years all at the same time. But it was actually 3 years ago. And so obviously, not a lot of reviews were completed that year. I'm pretty sure nobody would have wanted us to come out and do QARN reviews in 2020. So because of that, we kind of have to look at what are we going to do this year. And so what we are looking at is basically just doing a reset of the whole schedule. So we're going to kind of start over like when this location-based review started in 2018 and make a new schedule that hopefully we can sustain going forward. So we may be coming back to some of the sites that we did with you guys in 2021. Right, we're not going to try for last year, but 2021, so that we can more evenly space things out. I think hopefully that'll be a benefit to you guys as well, so that you don't have a bunch of reviews like all packed together in a short period of time because of what happened in 2020. So I think this reset hopefully will benefit everybody. So you may have a review sooner, right? And then going forward, it will stay on that 3-year cycle. And then we also, I talked about this last provider meeting, but just a reminder as we start off the year. Again, one of the things that we're seeing is people's certificates expiring because the time period is getting too tight for them to complete their recertification requirements. So just a reminder that renewal CEs can be completed as soon as that person earns that certification, and they don't have to be completed all at one time. Right? If it works better to do them in staff meetings over 15-minute increments till it gets to that 2 hours, you can do it that way. It doesn't have to be one setting. And skills checks can be completed within 180 days.
Then I saw a lot of papers.
So 6 months of that.
Oh, she said that your brother left the, he gave me the.
You're probably going to need to use. Just to make sure, that people's certificates don't. Question? So Angie's going to come up and talk about one of the trainings that we want to offer to the managers at yours.
So coming out of the pandemic, as you all know, there's also the shortage of DSPs. So one of the things that me and Susan and we identified when we were out doing the QA, our vetting process, is that that homes managers are having trouble with oversight because they're being pulled to this area and that area. And so Susan and we developed a training to better assist the managers and prepare them to think outside of that box of what other ways can you perform oversight without actually being at the home. And so we extended that offer of training last year, and we received a lot of positive feedback from providers that had participated in that. And so we would like to extend the offer again. The training is 4 hours. It will be held here at the Cava Fall Center. And so things that we go over in the training, we go over documentation, identifying med errors. And we also do a lot of hands-on role playing where we break off the home managers into groups and then they give each other feedback. And so if you're interested in participating in any of the training, you can always reach out to me and Susan. So that's all I have. I will turn it back over to Susan.
So the last thing I wanted to talk about, there was a memo Monday that came out on December 6th about CBD and medical marijuana. So I would encourage you, I did not copy paste the whole memo Monday into these slides, but I would encourage you to read it. We also attached it to the invite, and you should have got, if you're here physically, you got a copy of it, because it does have a lot of good information about medical marijuana and a lot of good links if you need more information, and CBD products and things like that. So basically, just to boil it down, if somebody receives a topical CBD product that has less than 3% THC, that can be given with that over-the-counter topical for comfort, cleansing, and protection. So that's that standalone training that DODD has published. It fits into that category where staff don't need to have certification. Again, it has to be that topical for comfort, cleansing, protection. It's not ingested or anything like that. If it is ingested, and again, is the less than 0.3% THC CBD product, that can be given through medication certification, right? So staff are certified, placed on a MAR, everything else that would go into medication certification. Now, when it comes to medical marijuana, while it is legal in Ohio, because of Medicaid funding for our programs, we are not authorized to administer medical marijuana through the Medication Administration Certification Program, through family delegation, none of that. Now, what that means practically is not that so if somebody has medical marijuana, we don't want that to be prohibitive of them receiving services. I don't think, hopefully that's what anybody at DODD would mean. So if you have someone who you're serving who utilizes medical marijuana, reach out to us. We will help you figure something out. Again, while it's prohibited for staff to give it, we don't want that to be a reason for somebody to not receive services. So we will help you all figure something out. Questions on that? Like I said, I know I sort of just like really boiled that down again. I would encourage you to read that memo. There's also an email at DODD on there that you can reach out to if you have questions or if you can read it.
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, relative to this, is we just want to make sure folks that have the legal right to use medical marijuana for their card are not necessarily kept out of that process because of the administrative oversight or hassle that is currently in place relative to it being a federal class 1 drug and it not being able to fit within the medication administration guidelines for certified staff. So we really do want to work with you. We've actually already had conversations with a couple of providers who've had folks obtain medical cards and how it can be processed and how it can be supported so that that person can exercise their right without you guys technically having certified staff violate federal law, which we also don't want. But we truly don't want people with disabilities to be discriminated against in the sense of being able to access a state right. We recognize it's complicated. We recognize there's a lot of concerns, even just with having it in a house relative to all the things that can happen. So, but I think we've successfully worked it out with a couple agencies relative to lock boxes and reminders and some of those things that were allowing that person to use it within their right without going above and beyond what we would describe as okay. So that's kind of really where we are. So if you do have this situation, please don't hesitate to reach out. We're happy to walk through the specific situation and do our best to support that person to exercise their right.
The next thing we had for you was to introduce Tanner.
Hello, everyone. From my big head on the television, I'm Tanner May. And so that I actually had a QR code, so me passing out business cards. So my role is just to assist you in whatever I can do for you. So I'll say, if you have your phone, if you want to take it out and scan that real quick, or take a picture of my email, you can do that. It also works on the computer screen, so if you're watching at home. But my role is very simple. Our clients have a hard time finding housing. It's limited. So basically one of my only things is to try to help them find free access to housing. So I work with a lot of private landlords, the housing authority to try to do that, just to open up access to them. So whether it's Facebook, Craigslist, however I find them, I scour everywhere and try to negotiate and work with these landlords and have them understand what we do here at Summit ED. Because before I started working here, I had no idea what you all did, and neither do they. So once I can explain it more to them, who we are, what we do, how we help our clients, person served, they're actually opening up and they're more willing to work with us. So, and then also I'm here to be a resource to, like I said, you as well, but also to our staff, our person served, just to educate them on their rights, what we can do for them, to walk them through the process, because housing is a very complicated issue. So they don't know all the rules, some of their rights, being discriminated against. So any way that I can serve, that's what I like to do. And then also assist them once we actually find something, assist them in the process. So from the application, from the showing, from the fees, whatever it is. So through AMHA, that's a lengthy and complicated process that seems to get more complicated by the day. But I'm here to help just walk with you, walk with our clients, our staff here, just through the complicated process of housing. So once again, you have my contact information. If you ever need to reach out to me, please feel free.
I want to introduce also. And what she does.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tania Means. I'm an SSA, but I have an assignment in residential. So I assist the SSAs. My job is to support the SSAs with residential needs. I assist with helping in emergency situations with like emergency respite services and placements. I work closely with Joe Jordan with the Freedom of Choice portal process. I also assist with residential tours. I can help schedule them.
You lost sound again.
That's not necessarily us. It's
Can you hear us now?
yes.
I also work closely with Summit Housing and Tanner. We meet monthly to just go over, different needs in the houses. And does anybody have any questions at all? And my contact information was above. It's tmeans@summitdd. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out. Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I'm gonna talk to you guys about the DSP retention payments. So, I know DODD has shared a lot of information, so I'm sharing the stuff that is on their website, so you can definitely find it there as well. But, the retention payments, are, I know Drew talked about it last meeting, are here. The, initial, requests need to be in actually by Monday. So if you haven't looked at this and done this, definitely, do it soon. But the retention payments are going to be distributed quarterly. They are for waiver funded services, not local services. And on the next slide, I actually broke down which services, but as an agency provider, you will need to opt in that you want to get these, follow through the DODD requirements that I'm going to get into a little bit more. And then you're going to have to report back to them that you use the funds appropriately, essentially. If you're interacting with or you're listening in, you're also an independent provider, you're also eligible for the payments and you don't have to do those pieces. You'll just automatically get it as an independent provider. But here are the services. So again, waiver services, home or personal care, including on-site on-call, shared living, NMT, and then your adult day support, vocab, employment, support. So any of those services you can qualify for the payments. This opened up on January 3rd. The website is there. There's also a printout here for if you're here in person to get to enroll online. You go there and click through. DODD actually has a nice document. It's about 5 pages long where it literally screenshots exactly how to go through the process to sign up for the reimbursements. So like I said, the initial payment registration is due by Monday, the 16th. And the first payments are actually going to come mid-January. They estimate, I believe, the 18th. So those are going to be pretty quick. Yep, here's a chart that says that. So yeah, the ones from the beginning of last year, April to June and the 18th, then additional ones on the 25th and the 1st. And then the payments need to go to the DSPs no later than March 15th. They don't have to go out on that date. And this is also available on that flyer there or on DODD's website. And then DODD wants the data collection that you need to submit back by 4/15 for this first group and then later submission. So the next submission, you'll need to say that you want to participate by the 18th of April. So, and with this is based on what you have billed for services. So make sure if you can get that in on time so that will be reflected when you are getting those payments because they're based on what you billed for. So that's why there's a little bit of leeway between the end of when the services were provided, when you need to submit it. And then when you're distributing the money, wages to your staff, the DODD gives a definition in their information on eligible employees in case you have questions about that. But they're saying that you could do it based on wages earned. So each eligible employee receives the same percentage of their total wages earned in the quarter. Or you could do it, each eligible employee receives the same dollar amount as a retention bonus. So, everybody receives this chunk of money, or the other way based on their wages earned, take the amount that we get and divide it by the, let me say this wrong.
What? Oh,
Can you say it?
so yeah, so the best, I think probably the easiest way, if you don't want to give everyone the same amount, is take the total wages of that employee divided by the DSP retention payment you received as a provider, and that will give you a percentage, and that is the percentage of the retention payment that they should receive. So I think it's probably fair that the majority of you are not going to issue the same payment to everybody, because you have people working 10 hours, you have people working 80, 90 hours. So that is a way to then kind of manage that retention payment based on hours worked. And that also includes overtime. So it's total wages in the quarter for that employee divided by your total retention payment received for that same quarter. Figure out that percentage, then they end up getting that percentage of the overall retention payment you received as a provider. This spreadsheet, just to reinforce Mary's comment, is really nice, and it is a way for you to keep track of all of that. And then once it's completed, that is your submission document back to DODD as an agency to articulate that you distributed the payments within the rule. Because if you don't do that, then you're not going to be eligible for the next quarter, and in fact, they may look to claw that money back. So use the spreadsheet as part of the calculation, then you can just automatically submit that within the guidelines.
The spreadsheet has, incorporated tax information and the up to 18% that you can use for the administrative costs of you doing this, or for they outline a few other ways you could spend that 18%. And then again, there's the website, and we're going to send this out to you, but those of you that are here in person, it's there, and I can share it in the chat for those of you guys who are virtual. If you don't have it. And then this second link is the retention payment, the opt-in instructions that does the screenshot to walk you right through what to do. And then if you have additional questions as you're doing it, DODD did set up a whole separate email box to respond to you. Did you guys have any questions?
I do.
There, go ahead.
I'm sorry, it's Dwayne Coggins, Robert J. Donna. On the retention payment program, is that going to be something that's temporary, or is that going to continue for X amount of months or years?
Yeah, so there's currently no end date to the retention payment program that's been announced. I will say, to speculate, I do think as we get into looking at the next biennium budget, which is going to be occurring in 2024, there's a high likelihood that this 6.5% will just roll into an overall rate increase versus continuing a quarterly retention bonus program. That's just, I'll be honest, just my speculation. But currently there is no end date to it. But I would think the easiest way to distribute this money long-term would actually be an overall rate increase for the services that are included versus continuing this program that does actually require more work from providers than simply a 6.5% rate increase for the services.
Thanks, Drew.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions?
Could you back up the slide?
Yes. Did you get everything you see?
Okay, go ahead. Okay. Thank you.
So to kind of switch gears, Summit DD has a summer youth work experience program every summer. So students 16 to 22 get some work experience while they're still enrolled in school. And they go out to community job sites and with one or two of their peers for 5 or 6 weeks. Try out a job, see how it goes for them, see what things they want to still work on to get better at and things. So we are looking to expand our providers to that service. So we are having an informational session on February 1st 2:30, 3:30 here at Summit DD. You can come in person, or we're gonna do like a hybrid setting like this, so you can come in virtually. And we will share some information, like more specific information about that program, how to apply if you want to be a provider for it, and answer any questions. So, yeah. Did you have a question? Oh, no, just sorry. You doing great. But if you would like to join virtually, there should be an email going out to all providers very soon, with a link so that you could join virtually, and it'll, just remind you about it. I'll turn it over to Drew to talk about the local services.
Yeah, so I just wanted to provide everybody an update. So last November, when we had our agency meeting, we had discussed an updated local services agreement that we had proposed to the Summit County Prosecutor's Office, which is ultimately the entity that prior to our board has to approve contractual agreements the county Summit DD enters into. So at that time, what I had articulated was that we had submitted an updated local services agreement that significantly changed the insurance requirements that we were looking for from providers to be able to deliver local services. And so when I say local services, those are essentially mirrored Medicaid services that Summit DD pays for 100% versus the way that they work in the waiver. So if somebody doesn't have a waiver, they attend a day service, they get transportation, whatever those services may be. We fund those services 100% versus billing the waiver and us just paying the match. Prior to COVID, we had a local services agreement that required a significant amount of additional insurance than what was beyond required for DoD certification. To be frank, that was a significant barrier for providers to be able to deliver local services to persons served who needed them. In COVID, probably a couple months after COVID started, we waived the local contract requirement and opened up the ability for anyone in the county who was a certified provider and actually certified for that service to be able to deliver those local services. That tripled the amount of providers that were delivering local services, which was really good because a lot of people were going through workforce crisis issues and were pulling back on the ability to deliver local services. And we had an increase in local service need as kids were home more, or whatever else was going on in a personal sort of life, and they happened not to be on a waiver. So the update I kind of wanted to provide to this group today is that we did receive word from the prosecutor's office that local services agreement was approved, and now our next step is we are going to seek board approval on the 26th, for the first board meeting of the year. And then once we anticipate the board approving it, we'll be seeking approval. I can't articulate it will be approved, but we're seeking approval. And then once that occurs, what we'll be doing from a process standpoint, there's about 170 providers that are currently authorized for a local service. We will be reaching out to you between kind of February 1st and the end of March to get that new agreement executed. And then also ensure that you're a vendor with the county, because those are kind of the two processes: get a local agreement signed and make sure that you're a vendor with the county so that when you bill through ohiotd.net that you can receive payment time. So we'll start doing that. We'll reach out to you guys. Like I mentioned, we think it's going to take about 60 days to get current local service providers on a new agreement. And then we'll work on providers that may be interested in serving folks that are locally funded but are currently not authorized to get an agreement with that. The agreements have no end date. So once you sign it, unless you terminate it or your certification gets removed or you stop being a provider, the agreement will generally be in place until we have a new agreement. So, and the insurance requirements in the new local agreement, I was remiss, I didn't say this, mirror what is required for DoD certification. So if you are an agency, it just mirrors what's in the certification rule. And you also have to be certified for the service that you're delivering. So pretty straightforward. And, we obviously just want to expand the pool of providers that are able to deliver services to folks who are not on a waiver and also not put additional barriers to service provision in place. Our rates mirror Medicaid rates. So whatever the waiver provides for that particular service, Summit DD will mirror that through 100% locally funded payment. Any questions on that? If you are authorized currently for local service, you get the agreement. Questions, please feel free to reach out to us. We'll be happy to set up a time to chat, talk about the agreement. It's very straightforward. The previous agreement, I think, was 5 or 6 pages long. I think this is a page and a half. So it is very, very much trimmed down, articulating your responsibility to be DoD certified for the actual service. And then basically some legal language, and then some language relative to our ability, if we believe fraud has occurred, to investigate billing, request documentation, and those kind of things. And if in fact documentation isn't received, our ability to essentially stop your ability to be a local provider. So very much trimmed down. I'm actually this has been a long conversation that we've been having relative to this. I remember our pre-local contract. So I think this is a really good thing. And we will keep you updated relative to the board reviewing and hopefully approving that document. Any questions from the chat? Anyone online? All right, quarterly listening session. So I also spoke about this in November, but I did want to provide an update. We sent out, Gretchen sent out an email to agencies today about signing up for those sessions. So as I mentioned in November, we want to provide an opportunity for structured feedback and dialogue with providers relative to their experience with Summit DD, what's working well, what's not working well. Providers are one of the most critical pieces of the service delivery system. We view you guys as partners. We hope you guys feel that and see that in our actions, but we also recognize that there's always room to grow. So we want to provide a setting for providers to come in, hopefully have honest and transparent conversations about their experiences with Summit DD, and then also talk about just barriers, issues occurring from a state perspective or challenges you have as a provider. Some of our best innovations and partnerships and pilot programs have occurred because we've just been having conversations with providers. Providers have mentioned something, we followed that up with more conversation, and then we've collaborated to create some sort of new initiative. Success coach program, summer youth, transition partnerships with schools, behavior support programming. All of that has come because we had an open and honest conversation with a provider staff member or a couple of providers. So it is our hope not only to receive feedback relative to your experiences with Summit DD, so we can continue to improve and improve our partnership and your experience engaging with us, but also to hear what struggles and barriers, challenges you guys are facing as a provider, so we can look at our provider supports, our initiatives, how we spend our local funds to support service delivery, and be able to create new initiatives and improve even current initiatives so that we can continue to try and better the service delivery system and so. So Sign Up Genius went out. We have virtual and in-person meetings. We are my ask and how they are set up is that for 10 people per listening session. So one representative from provider could attend to keep it somewhat small, be able to have open and honest dialogue, opportunity for everyone to participate, and also with that one staff member per provider, a way to maximize the number of providers that will participate. End of January is the first one all the way through, I think, mid to end of March. I hope you'll attend. We're really honestly seeking your feedback. We want to have these conversations. And then once we go through the first quarter and hear from you guys is really kind of what are those next steps? Do we continue to do this every quarter? Is there a different way to facilitate these conversations? But we're committed to doing this long-term in a structured format. So that email went out. I hope you sign up. If you do sign up virtually, you'll get a Teams link prior to the meeting, about 3 days before. But you will get a calendar invite through Sign Up Genius. If it's in person, it'll be here, and we'll talk in person then. Any questions about that? Okay. All right. All right, so lastly, I just wanted to talk about our 2023 action plan. Give a little background about what the action plan is and how it kind of drives the work that we do together. So Summit TD creates what's called an annual action plan every year. It is a yearly document that is built upon the long-range plan that is developed by Summit TD every 3 years. So we do a long-range plan, and then each year of that long-range plan, we create an annual action plan that talks about the specific activities we're going to do to kind of move that long-range plan forward. We are in our second year of a long-range plan, so this is the second action plan associated with our current long-range plan. And really, we develop it in collaboration with our partners. So we put a draft together, we sent it out for public comment, it went out to all providers, it goes out to all families, it goes out to the community. And then we take all that feedback, we revise the document if needed, and then in January at the board meeting, we'll be seeking approval of that action plan. So I know everyone here did receive a link to see that action plan during the public comment period. But when we send out the PowerPoint next week with a link to the recording of this meeting, there's also a link to that draft action plan. And then obviously once it is approved by the board, we will also send it out as well. I won't read it in detail because all of you had an opportunity to see it and just to respect everybody's time, but I did want to highlight a couple things that I think are important as we think about initiatives that Summit TD really wants to partner on and really move forward. And some of this will not be a surprise. Significant emphasis on increasing the use of technology, increasing independent living skills, and really continuing to work to ensure that there's opportunities for people that have articulated they want to have competitive integrated employment to move in that direction. Relative to technology, we just recently opened a smart home that has a wide variety of technology. It's integrated into voice controls. It's got shades going up and down by themselves. It's got lights turning on. It's got outlets. It's got a whole host of things. A lot within that home that person served and families and teams can come and kind of experience what it would be like to actually utilize that technology in their own home. We are currently in the process of getting Summit TD staff to be able to tour that home. It just opened in December. After that, so probably within the next coming few months, we're actually going to open it up so you guys as providers can come and take tours. And then our hope is as teams look to explore technology, is going to take tours, having conversations with teams, and then really talking about how they can integrate the technology that they saw there into their own home to help them overcome barriers that they may have of living independently or even income. With that, we also are in the process of kind of putting together a technology team that as teams are exploring technology, they can complete a referral. And then it comes to a team-based approach on how best to support that referral. That can be just, using the waiver to access a piece of technology. That can be connecting with one of the 2 SLPs we have focused on assistive technology to do an assessment, to then identify additional technology that could be useful and how to set it up to support that individual. So much more in this area coming. Also, remote supports are part of this as well. We've had a couple conversations about remote supports with the provider community. There's a lot there. It can be complicated, so we want to continue those conversations. We think the remote support house or the AT house will be helpful because it will allow personal serve staff, providers to just visualize and see the technology in action versus kind of the abstract concept of just talking. So really exciting there. And so looking for that independent living skills. So this is an area we've been looking at for years, and you know, we recognize that supporting someone to develop independent living skills within the family home or even as an adult takes more than what HPC can actually potentially provide at the current rate, in addition to kind of just the whole staff increases. We put out an RFP for providers and community organizations to submit a proposal relative to doing a pilot with us on increasing independent living skills. Those interviews took place the end of last year, and the committee is getting ready to make a decision relative to what partners we're going to work with on how to move that pilot forward. We're going to use this year to really explore what it takes to really move independent living skill training and support forward, and then look to expand it even further into 2024. So really excited about that. It's something we tried with a transition pilot before, and we continue to have families and adults and providers be really interested in being in this space. And I think it's really important. And combined with some technology, I think we could see some really great opportunities for independence and building independence with people we support. And then obviously competitive integrated employment, just supporting people through that process to go from I want a job to I have a job, working with OOD providers who want to provide employment services, and our own business engagement team on connecting to businesses who have open positions. So we have a lot of cool things going on in that space as well. All right, so also just taking an opportunity to evaluate kind of some current efforts we have around for supporting individuals with complex needs. When I say complex needs, I don't just mean people with behavior supports, I also mean people with intent. So we've had a number of pilots over the last couple of years relative to how we serve people with those intense needs. A lot of that has truly focused on people with high behavioral. Okay. We last year, and it really started off in June, initiated a contract with Marikey for very intense community-based mental health services through what is called the Dual Diagnosis Treatment Team. That was a contract that launched mid-year last year. We renewed it this year, and now we'll have a full year to really evaluate the success of that program and if it's really moving the needle forward. We've done pilots. We've paid for staff training. We've increased access to BCBA and registered behavior tech services as well. And so through kind of this year is just looking at all of those kind of pilots and initiatives that we've had to see what's working, what's not, what else do we need to do? How do we collaborate with people providing those services? How do we support staff that are providing services for people with really complex needs? And what can we do to better kind of service delivery and partner with you guys relative to that? So that's one thing that we're going to continue to focus on, and then continuing to invest and expand our workforce development. So the last couple of years, we've done that success coach model. Some of you in this room have had an opportunity to participate in that program. We think it's really valuable. The feedback we've received is that it's very valuable to supporting staff. We're actually currently in what I'll define as a mini research project with Kent State University and really analyzing the work of success coaches to find out what activities success coaches do that make the most impact on retention. That report should be coming from KSU in March.
Late February.
Late February. And so that will actually provide us some data-driven research on what impacts retention. And then we're really looking to how do we expand that to a larger group of providers. We are also now in the recruitment space where we're working with a small group of providers to recruit DSPs. and connect them to agencies with openings. We recently executed a contract in December with an organization called United Labor Agency, where we are now going to have 2 full-time recruiters to go out and educate people on the DSP role, connect with organizations that might have pipelines to potential DSPs and connect them to agencies with openings. That has been somewhat of a limited pilot. We're looking to continue to expand that within providers that are interested and how best to do that based on the resources that are available. But it's an area that our board is absolutely committed to. We have put a lot of not only resources in the sense of hiring a workforce development manager, and Kristen Oleski, who you guys met in November. Also, this contract with United Labor Agency and marketing and everything else. So our board is spending a significant amount of resources. We are definitely committed to it, definitely committed to continuing it and growing it to support workforce in this county and partnering with you guys on those plans and processes. And then lastly, we have an action item this year where we are really going to try and focus on team-based problem solving that includes all stakeholders. So when we have issues to be solved or ways that we want to address the service system, like technology, like residential, is actually putting together work groups that involve providers, personal serve, families, some of DD staff to really team-based problem solve. What can we do to support those areas? This is just getting off the ground. We're actually just having internal conversations around how to put a draft process together to make those work groups efficient. How do we collect data out of them? How do we make them meaningful? And so I would anticipate we'll be launching 2 to 3 work groups this year with that new process. So I'm excited about it. I think it's a real great way to not only engage frontline staff here, but all of the stakeholders that are involved in moving the system forward. So definitely more to come on that. So yeah, so that is our 2023 action plan. Any questions on that? All right, I think I'm it. All right, well, hey, I appreciate everybody online. I appreciate those here today coming out in the lovely weather. And I apologize for tech issues today. We will eventually make this work. All right, thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Have a great afternoon.
Okay, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Yeah, good to see you.
Yes. Yes. I think you can do some of those times.